I'm Professor Rob Wolcott of the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, and I look at how larger organizations, established companies in particular, try and figure out how to innovate on an ongoing basis.
I say, how many of you would like an innovative surgeon? Anyone? Innovative surgeon? Oh, okay, well, maybe innovate on someone else first and then innovate on and operate on me, right? It's similar in banking. Now, are there innovative banks? Absolutely. Will there be more in the future? Yes, because those that don't will die. It will cull the population. But I'll tell you, incidentally, you have a bank here, Itaú, that I have great respect for. In fact, when I'm all around the world speaking about innovation and how to make it happen, and people complain about how difficult it is to innovate, from my perspective, Itaú is a fairly innovative big bank. It is innovative for a bank. But we don't want banks innovating the way perhaps Google tries to innovate. And in Google, God bless their hearts, they can make self-driving cars. They can send balloons into space. The thing is, with a lot of things that Google does, they can put stuff up online and see what sticks. And if it doesn't work out, oh, big deal. We won't do that again. If you do that in banks, then you end up with Lehman Brothers. Perhaps part of what happened in the global economy of the past decade or so was a little bit as a result of perhaps too much innovation, and innovation not done a proper way. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to think about the future, because we cannot predict it. I love Brett's commentary with the fact that we cannot predict the future. But we have to think about where it might go. We have to identify plausible futures, where are the directions the world might go, and then have a portfolio of options on that future. By the way, this is the essence of innovation strategy, having a portfolio of options on the future. When I started in this field almost 25 years ago, things truly were moving less quickly. So when your mother or father say, well, why are you working so hard? You can say, well, Professor Wolcott told me that competition really is harder today. Because it is, and things are changing faster. Years ago, corporations, even consumer-focused companies, would about every 5 years evaluate consumer trends. They'd do a nice big report. It would go and sit on a shelf in a binder. And then every 5 years, whether they needed it or not, they'd refresh the trends. Even at that point, it probably was not often enough, but that was the standard. Today, many companies, every 2 years, every year. And as you might suspect from what you've heard this morning, that process of tracking trends, some people used to call them fads, trends and fads, and understanding the difference, needs to happen on an ongoing, continual basis. Think about the example that Matt shared of L'Oreal and ombre hair. By the way, did the word ombre hair strike anyone else as odd? I'm just learning Spanish now, and I think yo tengo hambre. So that's like hungry hair. Or I'm an hombre, man hair. So what woman wants to have hungry hair or man hair? And neither really seems right. Anyway, I digress. So if L'Oreal had waited 2 years to assess consumer trends, they would have missed the entire opportunity. So this is the world in which we live. And what I'll do is frame it with a few trends that might be relevant in your space. You've heard of some of them so far, and then talk a little bit about what to do about it. So how could it be possible for companies at the top of the global hierarchy to collapse and die? Well, this is a long discussion, but I'll give you a couple hints. Every time I discuss this with executives, and I ask them, how could this happen? They say a variety of things, and one word that almost always comes up is complacency. They became complacent. And I don't actually believe that's what was going on. I know what the executive means when he or she says that, but I do not believe that's what was going on. It was not complacency. Complacency to me means that executives at these corporations were getting to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they were kicking out early to go play golf. Because everything's fine. You know, we're making money, everything's okay. That's not what was going on here. In fact, I've talked to people at many of these companies during the difficult times, who were there during the difficult times. And here's what they told me happened, some version of the following. So you've been making money for 30 years. Everything's great. And then you come upon your first quarter where you might not hit your numbers. And when you come upon that first quarter where you might not hit your numbers, the memos fly around from the CFO's office, and everybody gets all whipped up, and they do two things. Because every business, by the way, is just revenues and expenses. That's a business. They do two things. They cut costs as fast as possible. That might help us hit our numbers this quarter. And two, they sell as much as possible. Bente. And guess what? It kind of works. We make it through that quarter, and everybody feels good. We rallied. We had a travel moratorium. We went out and we sold more stuff, and we hit our numbers. Whew, thank goodness that's over. And then they get to another quarter. Well, we're not going to quite hit our numbers, and what do we do again? Cut, bente. And you know, the problem is, after a while, that doesn't work anymore. If the world is truly changing, then doing more of what you've been doing before, doing it better and better doesn't work anymore. And here's the trap. Here's why it's so difficult to innovate and why it is ultimately an imperative. And that is, our job is about becoming better at what we do, becoming more efficient, maintaining margins, maintaining competitiveness, becoming the best at doing this, whatever this thing is that you do, doing this every year. That's how we win. The problem is, the better and better you get at doing this, the more optimized every process, every hiring decision, every cultural factor in your company, the more optimized you are to do this, the harder it is to do that. In a competitive economy, eventually you will be required to do something else. And this is where we need to figure out how to have the ability to do well at what we do now, but have a portfolio of options on the future. All of your competitors know everything you're doing. Okay? And by the way, you know everything they're doing too. There are a couple exceptions, but get over yourself. You all know what you're doing because you go to the same conferences, you read the same publications, you hire the same people. It's like incest, and that doesn't work so well in genetics. So, what we need to do is seek peripheries, places on the edges of our markets, maybe other geographies in which we're not playing. That's why I tell people in insurance, banking, financial services around the world, take a look at Itaú, see what they're doing in Latin America. It's pretty interesting. Figure out where your peripheries are in the world. So this product is Red Bull, but this is not exactly Red Bull. This is the predecessor product to Red Bull. This product was sold in Southeast Asia for about a decade, simply for Thai truck drivers and textile workers to avoid falling asleep at the wheel. It had nothing to do with partying. But somewhere along the line, some Thai truck drivers decided it would be fun to hang out at the nightclub till 5:30 in the morning for no apparent reason. So they drank this stuff, and it turns out it was fun. And so other people started doing it too. And then an Austrian guy showed up in Bangkok, and he saw this happening, and he said to the owner, I think we should do a partnership. So they created a partnership. And he flew it to Prague, and to Berlin, and to London, and eventually it got on a boat and went to the United States and became a multi-billion-dollar new category. Now, my question to you is, if you're the CEO of Diageo or PepsiCo or Coca-Cola, when is the point when your teams should know this is happening, and when is the point you should do something about it? They're different questions. When is the point when my market insights, marketing team, product development should know this is going on somewhere in the world? And when is the point when we should do something about it?